Best of r/malicious compliance episode 141. Subscribe for edit videos daily. Paranoid and abusive customer swallows his own medicine. First time posting. Only recently found this r/. Stupidly long, but I promise this one's worth the read. TL. Doctor is at the bottom. Least you can do is scroll a bit. I used to work as junior admin for a medium-sized web hosting company. The actual job title went a little bit different, but junior admin is essentially what the work amounted to. The team I worked for is a sort of white gloves premium managed hosting service with a fairly steep monthly cost, intended to provide hosting support to mostly medium businesses that were paying for fairly high-powered VPS or dedicated servers, or several. On my first day on the team, I had my first interaction with one of our regular callers we'll just call Dan. Dan is extremely paranoid about his server security and virtually everything running on his server is completely customized with third-party software we do not provide support for. I later found out that everyone else on the team intentionally avoided picking up Dan's chats and letting me walk into that interaction with Dan blindly was a sort of welcome to the team hazing ritual. When you initiate a support contact, be it via support ticket, chat or phone, you have to provide either a password, pre-generated access hash or passphrase set up by the account owner before providing support and disclosing potentially sensitive customer information. Any one of these three methods would serve to verify account ownership and allow full access to the account, including making additional purchases, canceling services and pretty much anything else. This was not secure enough for Dan. Dan insisted that before any support is rendered, two of these methods have to be provided, as company policy only calls for one. Dan's preferences were simply annotated as a sticky note on the account, which is easy to miss. In my first interaction with Dan, he voluntarily provided only one of the verification methods and after verifying it checks out, I began addressing his support issue. Dan flies off the handle and loses his $% because I did not prompt him for a second verification method and launches into a really long and drawn out lecture on keeping his account secure. He eventually calmed down enough to let me do my job and provide him with support. Fast forward a few months and more than a few additional interactions with Dan, raising support tickets for asinine questions like who owns this IP address that shows as having been blocked in my firewall logs. I demand a full security sweep of my server to make sure it wasn't compromised. I see that Dan shows up as waiting in the chat queue and groan to myself. The only other admin that worked that night was on lunch and I was scheduled to go on lunch right as he gets back. Not only is interacting with Dan a complete nightmare, he also takes forever to get to the point and it looked like lunch wasn't going to happen anytime soon. I accept the chat. The user provides the first verification method and dutifully I asked for a second verification method, not about to be yelled at a second time by Dan. The second verification method checks out too. I ask how I can help and the person on the other end goes, "This isn't Dan, I'm his developer. Dan hasn't paid me for my work, so I want you to delete everything on the server." Working in this industry, I've come in contact with more than a few attempts of social engineering and was completely taken aback by this guy's candor. He clearly knew our company policies and knew that as long as the caller was able to verify the account and provide the necessary credentials, we would be forced to comply with their request. I quickly performed an external backup of all of Dan's files. The person on chat did not ask me to delete backups, nor did he ask me not to take any, and deleted all of the site files, effectively taking down Dan's website. I will admit that this felt extremely satisfying and taking a backup of Dan's stuff was a courtesy that I did not have to perform, given the circumstances but knew my life would not be made easier if I hadn't done so. 20 minutes go by and I'm keeping my eye on the queue, entirely forgetting about lunch at this point. I knew Dan would call any minute now and that I would not be able to dodge his calls at this point. Sure enough, Dan's call, no chat this time, comes in. From the moment I pick up the phone, Dan is screaming in my ear about getting hacked and how insecure our infrastructure was. It takes another 10 minutes for him to calm down enough to provide both methods of verification. Before verification, I was not able to provide any account information as per policy. Once he was verified, he demanded to know what happened to his website and with a calm I didn't really feel, I told him that was me. "I deleted your site, Dan. Your developer started a chat and was able to provide both of the verification methods on your account, confirming account ownership. As per policy, this provides him with full access rights and we are obligated to comply with the requests. This is not the kind of access a security-minded individual such as yourself should have given out to a developer you stiffed on his bill. I told him that I slightly bent the rules for him and took a completely random courtesy backup of his files right before the request to delete the site files came in. Few minutes later, I've got Dan's site back up and running. No idea if he ever ended up paying his developer, but we changed his access credentials and passphrase at the end of the call and Dan became a lot easier to work with from that day forth. TL. Dr. Security paranoid and borderline abusive hosting customer shares his admin credentials with his developer and then stiffs the developer on dev work provided. Dev users provided credentials to delete the customer's website and the customer ended up learning a valuable lesson and possibly became a better person. Maybe, because of it. Thank you. Next. Medical care provided by the garage man. I finished my PhD in the middle of a terrible recession, and I was having a hard time finding a permanent job. I stayed afloat financially by adjunct teaching, low pay, no benefits, and by doing whatever odd jobs I could find. I was a volunteer EMT at the time, and a friend was able to get me a night shift job in a local hospital as an IV technician. Strictly speaking, that should have been a job for licensed nurses, so I suspect the hospital was violating some laws by having EMTs do that, but we were very cheap labor. The nursing staff made it abundantly clear they thought the EMTs were uneducated healthwits. 2 suggested that I try to get an associate's degree to better myself, and that we were utterly beneath contempt. We were completely at the mercy of the charge nurses, and all they ever wanted us to do was take out the garbage and clean up patients after their diapers had exploded. Me, how did you manage to get it on the ceiling? Contrary to what the job description implied, it was actually very rare for us to be asked to start an IV line on anyone, and even then it was usually for combative or belligerent patients. One time I was asked to start a line on a woman, and the second I stepped in the door she bellowed, "I only want someone WHO does IT professionally." I had enough practice with that sort of thing from my volunteer work that I could have threaded a needle on a roller coaster ride, and I calmly assured her I could manage it without difficulty. Reluctantly, she let me take her hand and I was able to get the line in quickly and painlessly. As soon as I returned to the nursing station, the charge nurse snarled at me, "Empty the garbage from the patient rooms." I asked if I could at least wait until the patients were asleep so the patient I just started the line on wouldn't erupt, but she wouldn't let me get a word in edgewise. So, I did exactly as I was asked. Predictably, the woman I had just started the line on saw me with the trash bin and she started screaming. They had the garbage man start my IV. What kind of a appercent and hospital is this? Postscript. As the early morning approached, I went to the lobby where the janitorial staff was gathering. I quickly picked up on the fact that they all had chips on their shoulders, and they felt like they were being treated like lower life forms. And from my own experiences, I knew they were absolutely right. So to this day I make a point of being absolutely respectful of everyone, know how lowly of a job they seem to have, and to help them out if I can. That has actually paid off a lot of unexpected dividends, as the janitors have proven to have the most accurate gossip network. It seems the executives think the janitors are invisible, and the execs say a lot of sensitive things when they're around. And my corporate spies just love passing the information to me. Thank you. Next. The whole bowl you say? On mobile. So my English is questionable at the best of times. Tonight I was making dinner with my full of attitude preteen. PT. While I was preoccupied with the hot stuff on the stove, I had her ribbon the zucchini, which she did and placed into a little prep bowl. Having completed this task, I moved on to another task and instructed her to put the zucchini in the pan. PT. How much? A tiny bit annoyed by this question. Why would I make her cut a whole zucchini if we weren't going to use it all? I answered without turning and my tone was a bit exasperated. OP. The whole bowl. Well, I turned back to the pan, to find the prep bowl, full of zucchini, placed precisely in the middle of the pan. Her little giggle of glee at her own malicious compliance was adorable, and we had a cute little mum-daughter moment. Thank you. Next. The following is a seminal moment in my life. A few months ago I was cooking pasta on a day off and got a phone call from Microsoft telling me I had a problem with my computer. The nice Indian gentleman told me what to do, and even though I had no computer near me, I followed his instructions and passed the embedded tests he gave me to make sure I wasn't taking the piss. Like, what is the key next to the control button? Me, the Windows key. A few more commands and then he read me out a code to type into my imaginary computer dialog box. It went like this. P, me, P, him, 1, me, 1, P, me, D, him, no, P, me, D, him, no, PPP, me, P, him, no, 1P, me, 1, P, him, swears in Hindi, me, swears back in Hindi as I randomly know some Hindi swear words, him, dies laughing, me, swears some more in Hindi, but going way over the top, him, can't breathe laughing. Every now and then since that call, I answer the phone to a barrage of Hindi swear words and laughter. Awesome. Smiling face with sunglasses. Thank you. Next. Tiny Human Wholesome MC. So a comment on another post about Tiny Human Malicious Compliance being awesome reminded me of this brief story of my son. As a preface, my son was 2 when this happened, and as most know, 2-year-old little boys are a handful. My son, Lucas, is quite smart, a bit devious, and entirely fearless. For the start of the year and with refund money I bought new swing sets for mine and my parents' home. My mother cannot stand when Lucas scales anything, and upon getting this new swing set and slide he immediately tried to climb up the slide portion. My mother fusses at him to sit down and slide. Without much of a pause, Lucas sits at the bottom of the slide and pushes himself up the slide and then slides back down with a very triumphant "I did it. Thank you." Next. Teamwork makes the dream work. Malicious compliance with a tag team from the manager. So I was reminded of this by another post I saw earlier about debt collectors. Basically, I work in a call center for a fairly large not-for-profit. We get calls all the time from debt collectors looking for people, and normally the interaction below plays out in which we politely tell them to fuck off. DC, can I speak to X? Me, what is it regards to? DC, it's a personal business matter. Translation: they owe us money. They almost always say this. Me, sorry, regardless of whether X is with us or not, we have a policy of not getting involved in personal business matters. I will be unable to transfer your call or leave a message. Anything else I can help with? DC, no, that will be all. End call. However, sometimes they do try to push back. Our rule here is simply, if they push, don't move. And we are more than happy to comply, management included. DC, hello, can I speak with X? Me, what is it in regards to? DC, doesn't matter, are they there or not? Me, if you are unable to tell me what it is in regards to, sir, I am unable to assist you any further. DC, is there anyone else I can talk to? Me, not unless you can tell me the purpose of your call, sir. DC, alright, well then give me your manager so I can talk to them about your attitude. Me, certainly sir, please hold the line. I call my manager over and tell them there is a complaint about me. Manager, hello, this is why I'm me's manager. How can I help you? DC, your staff member has been incredibly rude and unhelpful. I'm shocked at how poorly you are training your staff. Manager, my apologies for that, sir. I will be sure to have a word with him after this call. May I help with your initial inquiry? DC, yes please. Can I speak with X? Manager, now realizing what this is. What is it in regards to? DC, as I said before, that doesn't matter. How are you going to do your job and put me through or not? Manager, I'm going to do my job and not. Is there anything else we can help with? DC, click. Manager, out loud to no one in particular after carefully putting down the receiver. Well, fuck you too, buddy. Moral of the story, don't try to intimidate call center staff. It really just doesn't work and you just end up with a recording of you being a jackass. Thank you. Next. World War II malicious compliance. Bamber Bridge. During World War II, when U.S. troops were stationed in Britain, the US military authorities demanded that the town's pubs impose segregation. The landlords responded with signs that read, Black troops only. https://theconversation.com/black troops were welcome in Britain, but Jim Crow wasn't. The race riot of one night in June 1943, 98120.